G'day everyone, Greg here from Fishplate Films, and welcome back to episode 24 of the BNSF Birdwood Sub division. Well, what's that? Anyway, hasn't been a long time between drinks, and we're back now. Eventually, a lot of you have been asking where have I been, what's happening. Been doing a lot of work on the sub. So, as we've mentioned before, this layout update will be more of an overview of what's happened rather than a how-to, and we'll be doing the how-to videos in other segments, so we can concentrate more on that and keep the updates a bit smaller and get through them a bit quicker. So let's get into it. The next scenery project on the layout will be the construction of this hill. So we'll be using all the techniques that we've learnt so far with the cardboard strips, using our plaster cloth and placing our plaster rocks that we've moulded with our rock moulds. And this will take us up to the point where we can actually do our next how-to on colouring and painting the plaster rocks. There's also been new signals installed to protect crossovers and entrance into the yard, and we've also put in distant or repeat signals that show the engineers what the approaching signal is going to be so they can get their train under control. Now, of course, to drive those signals, we need some interlocking. And here is our interlocking here, a very, very basic interlocking. We have our signals up the top, and down the bottom, we have our turnout relays, or our indication relays. And what will happen is, depending on what lie your turnout is in, that will allow a signal up here to be red or green. So you have a situation where you don't run through a turnout. It's very, very basic interlocking. No tracks in here as yet. There's some more relay bases here for me to put some tracks in there later on. But basically it just stops you from running through a turnout. And there's a few different routes that have to be set. So there's a few different systems, a few different settings, I should say, that the relays can be at. So this is a bit of basic, very basic railway drawing here, railway signal drawing. Very, very basic. I mean, I normally deal with drawings that are pages long. So this is really very, very basic. But what it does, it protects the turnouts basically. And so what we can do, we'll throw a couple through our remote here, and this is the Switch 8 Mark II up here. And please excuse the crude wiring. And all our turnouts and our turnout indications, either normal or reverse, come down here, and they will switch a relay for either normal or reverse. That in turn, if everything is correct, if all the conditions are met, then that will switch a relay to go to green. So we're using basic signal principles here. A relay must be energized to make it green, and so if we lose any power at all to any part of the section of the circuit, the relay will drop or de-energize and go to red, so it's fail-safe. Normally with the turnouts you will have a relay for reverse indication and a relay for normal indication. We're just cheaping out here, and I'm using one relay for reverse and normal indication. So when the turnout is energized, it's normal. When it's de-energized, it's reverse. Not fail-safe, but otherwise we'd need two. Now the relay for 109 is the bottom left, so at the moment that is in normal because it is non-energized, and the signals up the top, the relay on the left is non-energized, so that means it's red. And when we throw the turnout, you will see that signal energized. So now that's gone to green. The other signal has gone to red, the relay has dropped, so that's fail-safe, that relay has lost power and is now in red. And then when we switch it back, you'll see them swap over again. So now the other signal now is red. So even though this is a very crude, basic interlocking, and it's only driving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signals, and being driven through, it's driving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 signals through 5 turnouts, it still requires an awful lot of wiring and lots of relays. So just in this part here, a relay and a base is about nearly $15. So there's a couple of $100 just in these relays here. And if you wanted to add tracks and have proper route locking, where if a signal was green at one end, you couldn't set a signal green in the opposite direction. So every signal must be proved red. Any opposed or opposite signal or adjacent signal must be proved at stop or red before you set a green. So therefore you would need many more relays here just to get a basic proper interlocking. This is a really crude interlocking here. So you would be looking at hundreds of dollars just to interlock this small junction that we have up here going into the yard and through the passing loop. So when you start buying things for JMRI and stuff like that and thinking, God, it's a lot of money, it's a fraction of what a proper relay interlocking would cost you to do, and a fraction of the wiring and a fraction of the time. But I still enjoy doing a bit of relay interlocking. It's fun. I like working on relay interlocking at work because you can actually see what's going on, not like all these bloody computer chips where you just have to read a screen and it's all magic. Where at least with relay interlocking you can hear things clicking and carrying away, and for me it's a lot more fun to work on a relay interlocking. So with this cutting here, I'm trying a different technique, something I've read about a few times, and that's where you create a false horizon. So we're not going right back to in here, we're creating a false horizon here because I need to get behind here. This is a track that goes down, a Tarragindi cutoff, goes down through here, and if anything happens, I need to be able to get into behind here if I can get to there to get to a train. And this is actually a tunnel. The tunnel will start back further, and you won't see any trains that are in here. But I still need to get there if something goes wrong, because from here down that way is about 4 meters of completely covered track. So you need some sort of rescue mission. So what I'm thinking of doing is we've created this horizon here, and then back here further there'll be another backdrop, and there'll be a gap here. But you'll look over this and then you'll see this one. So this will be something that sort of rolls down, maybe a bit of a valley, and then you'll see more hill over here. That way you don't get to see inside there, but you'll still be able to put your hand down there, trendsetters, and do a bit of rescuing. So that's a bit of an experiment to see if that works. Also, another thing that I've done here is I haven't left enough space on the side of the track for rock molds. I only left about 10 to 15 mil, about half an inch, and I think you need probably at least an inch, 20 mil from the track, so you can fit some rock molds in along here. So what I'm going to have to do there is learn how to do some carving. So that's in an upcoming video as well. And to try and get some rock. Now, it won't all be rock through here. Of course, sometimes there's just dirt that's fallen around and just straight down, so we'll try and do that. And I do have some very thin rock molds that will fit in here. But should do my luck, give my luck, try my luck, I should say, at a bit of rock carving and stuff. But that's coming up in another how-to video. But the next how-to video will be our creating that hill down the other end of the layout there, and that will progress onto painting rocks. So we'll show you a little bit of painted rock here and show you the results we got. Now, speaking of painting rocks, here are some rocks I've painted earlier, testing just to test different colours. Both of these bigger pieces here have four different colours on them, starting with base coats going up, and this one in the middle here has about 2 different colours. And so you can see it's a little bit more plainer, and these are a bit more. But you know what, trendsetters? I'm telling you a lie. This one in the middle here is actually a real rock that I found just out of my garden. And these two, if you recognise the castings, are the Woodland Scenics, one of the Woodland Scenics rock moulds. And a lot of people have said, you know, when you're painting the rock molds, should you put some paint in with the plaster? No, you don't. And I thought maybe it'd be a good idea if you did, but lots of rocks have white underneath. And you can see this real rock has bits of white here and little bits of white there. And so does the plaster ones here. You wash the little bits here, the plaster comes through. So no, don't put colouring in with your plaster, unless you're doing possibly really black rocks. But even then, they have a little bit. If you're going to put anything in, maybe just a tiny little light brown or light grey. But honestly, having the plaster white, you get all these little white bits coming through here, little highlights, and it's exactly the same as in this real bit of rock here, trendsetters. So there you go. Now, most of you in America are familiar with sculptor mold. Well, that's extremely expensive to get down here because you have to ship and it's quite heavy. This is an Australian product which is pretty much identical. I don't know whether who copied who or whatever, but this is called Sculpted and it's made by a company here in Australia. And you can get it from Officeworks or you can get it from them directly. And it's exactly the same. Bit of plaster of Paris in there. Some, what else is in there? Clay and munched up paper, I think. And it is really nice. Same as sculptor mold, you can smooth it out or leave it rough. And I'm just learning how to use this as well. So that's coming up in another upcoming scenery video, trendsetters. And also some rocks in here that have been pre-painted, which I don't recommend to do. But all the rocks I've been practicing painting that I thought, well, I may as well use them. So, but it's not a good idea. It's probably better to wait till you've got the rocks in situ, then paint them. Then some of the, I shouldn't say paint, I should put washes on them because we're not actually painting, we're using washes. Some of the washes will bleed off into the sculptor mold and it all just marries in a little bit better. Now, you know I'm always going on about turning your prime mover sounds down and all your sounds down in your locomotives, especially your prime mover sounds, because that goes over the top of all the other intricate little sounds that are recorded. But I want you to listen to these locomotives go through this tunnel here, and you'll listen to the sound decrease as they go away into the distance. And that's something that gives you a lot more presence and makes things a lot more realistic, and plus you don't drown the whole damn shed out with loco noises. Well, there you go. That's it for episode 24 of the BNSF Birdwood Sub. And we're getting on with some scenery, which is amazing most of you, including me. So this will be interesting to see how we do this with our carved plaster, because we can't use the rock molds. And our next video will be doing the rock wall and the hill at the other end. It'll be a very quick time-lapse sort of video, because then we need to be able to get some raw plaster rocks on there that we can paint or wash, because all the ones I have are already pre-painted. So we have to get some white ones on there so we can go through the process that I've learnt and use to colour my rocks to look exactly like the real one, trendsetters. There you go. Anyway, that's it for now. That's a Atlas Silver Series Dash8 Warbonnet that will be patched out with a little BNSF logo underneath the number there. I've got a couple of them. They're very nice. Wish Atlas would make some modern locos. If they did, they would probably be one of the best out there, I feel. Apart from scale trains and that, which I won't be bothered buying. Because Atlas are very reliable. They're like Kato's. They're very reliable, very smooth, very easy to work on. So all this newfangled stuff, we still don't know how reliable they are, do we? No. Anyway, never mind. Very good, and that's an old Kato behind it. That's an AC 4400. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching, and apologise for the lateness of this episode, but you know, life goes on, but other things to do, working on the house and all that sort of jazz. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all my subscribers and for sticking with us there. The layout is moving on slowly, but we're getting there. So glad you enjoyed it, and we'll see you very, very soon, as Benny Hill would say. Hooroo for now. Bye-bye. Always got to steal the show, haven't you? Sneaking in the background there, photo bombing the shit there.